Welcome to a two-part lecture on the Articles of Confederation, the first Constitution of the United States. You can pause the movie right now and have a look at the learning targets below. Here are the key concepts for this topic. Have a quick look. You can pause and restart the movie when you're done reading. And here's the outline of today's lecture. It's going to be divided up into two parts. In the first part, I'll just give you a brief overview of what the government was like under the Articles of Confederation, looking at both the structure of government and the powers of government. And then in the second part, we'll have a look at how things transpired under the Articles of Confederation, paying close attention to 5 different areas of American life. So let's begin with the general overview of the Articles of Confederation. The Articles of Confederation was the first national constitution of the U.S. It was drafted at the beginning of the Revolutionary War and finally ratified just towards the end of the war in 1781 and became the functioning constitution of the U.S., the first constitution of this new country. Under the Articles of Confederation, there were 2 levels of government. The national government, which had very limited powers, as you'll see in just a bit, and the state governments. All 13 of the former colonies each had its own state governments. Also had governments that made most of the important decisions during this time. But the national government looked like this. It had a legislative branch, which was the Confederation Congress. It was a unicameral legislature. That means one chamber of Congress. Each state had one vote, no matter the population of the state. And laws required what you might call a supermajority of states. So in order for any laws to be approved, 9 out of the 13 states had to say yes. Finally, if you wanted to change the Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, all 13 delegates, or all 13 delegations, that is, all 13 states in Congress, had to say yes. There was an executive branch, but it wasn't a separate executive branch. There was a president, but that person was merely another member of the Confederation Congress. He presided over the debates, was kind of the head of state, the official representative of the United States, but was just another member in every other respect. And so it was a very weak office of the presidency. Also, there was no national judicial branch, so all you had were the state courts. There were no national courts. The Confederation Congress, therefore, had really the only power in the national government. And it had a list under the Articles of Confederation of powers that it could perform. That list included the power to declare war and peace. It was the only government in the United States that could do that. The state governments could not do that. It could also enter into treaties with foreign countries. Only the national government could do that as well. The national government had the power to borrow and print money, and it just so happens that the state governments did as well. And the national government had the power to command an army if there was an armed conflict of some kind. Each state, by the way, also had its own militia, or what you might otherwise call like a mini army. The Articles of Confederation also had a list of things the Confederation Congress could not do. And these are important. The Confederation Congress could not do some really important things like impose taxes. So if it wanted to raise money, the Confederation Congress had to ask the state governments to provide funds for the operation of the government. And the state governments could choose to do so or not do so, but it was purely voluntary. The Confederation Congress had no power to exact revenue from the states. The Confederation Congress also could not regulate commerce between the states or between the states and foreign countries, so it had no power to impose tariffs, for example, or decide with whom we could trade and could not trade. The states could not be told who they can trade with or who they could not trade with. The states made all the decisions about commerce, the buying and selling of goods and services. The Confederation Congress also could not draft soldiers to raise an army. So, say that they declared war, well, then it would be up to the states to provide the soldiers to create an army to fight that war. Otherwise, Confederation Congress could declare war all it wanted to, but without an army, it couldn't fight that war, and it had no power to independently raise an army. Finally, really, when it came down to it, the Confederation Congress could not in any way interfere with the internal affairs of any of the states. It couldn't enforce any of its laws internally in the states. It would have to rely on the state governments to enforce laws passed by the state governments, passed by the Confederation Congress, and really had no enforcement power within a state. State governments, on the other hand, really had all the power under the Articles of Confederation. They could do anything they wanted to do, really, that wasn't expressly forbidden by the Articles of Confederation. And the list of things that was forbidden of states was very small. So, they couldn't sign treaties or declare war on other countries. They also couldn't do certain things that were forbidden of them by the state constitutions. So, they couldn't, in most states, you couldn't suppress freedom of speech or freedom of the press, but that's because the state constitutions forbade that. Otherwise, the state governments had really all the power in this political system. Okay, take a second then. That's a brief overview of the Articles of Confederation. Take a second to think out loud to yourself about these three questions. And then you can stop the video and turn to the second installment of this lecture about the Articles of Confederation.